We know that most Canadians collect reward points, but if you collect them on a credit card, you might want to rethink how you're using them or not using them. A new poll from CIBC found that most Canadians do not take full advantage of those programs, and it's costing us big money. Joining us with more is BNN Bloomberg's Jason Berkow. You said you are guilty of this. You collect the points, you don't cash them in.
I do, and it's nice to be part of the collective now, I guess. Usually I'm not one of those. Usually we'll have these studies that say, oh, these people have, the average Canadian has $26,000 in consumer debt outside of their mortgage. I think, well, that's not me. I feel better about that. And now I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm not so great. Because I have maybe tens of thousands of points, and it just sits there collecting itself, and I tell myself eventually I'll use them for something, and the more they build up, the more that I'm sort of proud of myself, right? I think a lot of Canadians probably feel that way. Might actually be the closest thing Canadians do to savings these days.
If only they would do that with, their actual savings.
With their actual dollars, yeah.
I find that I'll use them when people remind me I have them. So, for example, if you're at Chapters or Shoppers Drug Mart or if you're at the grocery store and they say you have X number of points, do you want to cash them in now? Then I'll think to use them.
Right.
But like airline points, they sit and they sit and they sit and they sit.
I sort of think of it the same way I guess I would think about, when you were a kid, did you ever go to those arcades where you would collect tickets, and then if you got enough tickets, you could get, a little mustache comb or something fun? I always think of it in that sense, where you don't want to take the 12 tickets and get the mustache comb. You want to look at that top prize, that dirt bike or that easy bake oven or whatever was at the top of the stack there, and that takes a long time to build up. In the case of these points, sometimes years.
So we said it's costing us. How does it cost us?
Well, it's something that is just money sitting there that if you're not using, then, it's not costing you in the real sense that it's, money that's going to be lit on fire, especially because there's a lot of jurisdictions in this country that don't let reward points expire, although there are some areas that might. So if you're ever in a situation where you're worried about that, probably best to check with your rewards provider. So if it's just attached to your credit card, give your credit card company a call. If you're, an Aeroplan user or one of those specialty rewards programs like the Shoppers Drug Mart reward program or something like that, then probably best to check with your provider. Most don't let their points expire, but of course, if they do, that is lighting money on fire. And that's not something that people should really be making a habit of doing.
So what are some of the other highlights from the CIBC poll?
Well, only about 13% of Canadians who have points use them for things that they would otherwise pay cash for. And that I found interesting because I actually found that number kind of high. Because usually when I think about using points, I think about either putting it towards a flight or a credit card payment, or, you're getting your debt knocked down, or, certain things that are more lump sum issues. But a lot of people apparently are using them to say, you know what, I could have spent 15 of my dollars on this, but I can actually pay for it with points, so why don't I do that?
Right.
That actually, I think, is kind of an interesting trend that might be worth digging a little deeper into. So that may be one of the questions we're going to try and answer at BNN Bloomberg today. But of course, trade wars and various guesses about whether or not the economy can survive these increased tensions with the United States. That might take up some of our time as well.
We can manage the points thing, though. All right, thanks very much, Jameson.
My pleasure.
Still ahead.